All right, we're continuing our podcast. It's a little bit different than the normal show we've done so far. Lauren's not here. Stepping in is Maggie. Maggie's been at Rank Fuse with the company
I think 5 months, 4 and a half.
4.5. This is your first digital marketing agency job.
It is. I was fresh out of school. Took
Fresh
a
out of school.
chance on me.
Nice. Well, excited to have you. You'll have a very fresh perspective versus my old ass that's been doing this forever. So it'll be a interesting conversation for sure. Some of the things I want to talk about is how is digital marketing for a new person, and maybe some tips and advice that you might have for other people who are recent grads entering into the digital marketing world. Our format usually goes, give me something new. What's new in Maggie's world this week, this month, the fast-paced digital marketing world that we live in. Would love to see what's new on your plate and kind of what's keeping you busy, and then I'll do my little what's new in my world, and then we can dive in on that topic. So pass it to you. Anything new? Any interest that you've dove into?
Let's see. Well, it's very stupid, but the very first thing that comes to my mind was I guess California is suing Hulu for having its ads be louder than the actual volume of the TV, so they're trying to get them to regulate that. I thought that was interesting in terms of advertising and stuff, but
I didn't hear that, but I'm on board.
I don't disagree. I definitely have noticed a problem, so I can't be that mad at them.
That's Hulu.
Mhm.
Yeah, my wife and I we were murders or only murders in the building, whatever that
Yeah,
show is called.
Steve Martin.
Yeah, love
Yep.
it. Great show, but as Hulu does, they throw an ad every 5 minutes or whatever at you,
Yep.
and it is louder,
Yeah,
and
it
you have
is.
to grab the remote control and be like, "God, who turned the TV up?" I don't like that. I always thought there should be some regulation around that, and
There
I'm
you
glad.
go. Step
I'm
in the
not
right direction.
I'm not pro California on a lot of their over litigate everything, but yeah, I like that one.
I'm
Eh,
trying to think of anything else that's more specific to the actual industry. Just
well,
AI concerns as always, but that's just me.
yeah, one of the things we did this week was in. We played with some because you're neck deep into social media way more than I am, a lot more about it than I do. But what I hear is AI is coming, and there's this whole you can kind of do more automation, right? If you can be quicker, faster, better, and we can pass those hours or those savings along to our customers who want more videos and less just
Cookie cutter
happy
solutions.
Halloween, here's a picture of some candy corn posts. We can do a little bit more than that. Let's put some movement and some motion and some actual social media together. Would in be a solution? Can I connect a social media calendar, content calendar to ChatGPT and ask prompt it to convert that into a video script? And then what happens if we give it to different videos, APIs? We tested VO3, which is one of the big ones, and can't the other one's drawn. I'm drawing a blank now. One of them's the Google one of them's the OpenAI ChatGPT one.
Yeah, VO3, that was the one we used with that workflow on
Yeah.
that grid. I like the workflow on that one. I can't remember trying out other one. I mean, I know we used Notebook, but that was for more of a brain mapping kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, Notebook's cool in a completely different way that it can take a knowledge hub and turn it into a pretty cool video. The what we learned this week is to put a bow on that, AI is not ready. AI is not there. You have to do so much prompting and scripting and do this, but don't do that, ruling on all the things that it's just like, you know what? I'll come back to it later when it's actually a thing because we tried it. It's cool. We know what it can do. We know what it can't do, but it still gives. Instead of giving people extra thumbs like it used to, it'll still give people like a weird reaction or a weird face or a half of a thing that you want it to do, not it's not completely natural.
Yeah,
It's
like
better, but it's not there.
yeah. Well, and the editing worked pretty well, but some of the clips that it edited together, it puts that overlay where like, that doesn't really make sense. It doesn't apply to what we're actually talking about. So like you said, we saw some stuff work, but other things, it's like it still needs that kind of human touch to go in and look at stuff. But
Yeah,
you kinda said earlier, it's a balancing act between automating things and getting things out faster because ultimately it is a competition. I mean, visibility, have to fight for that,
right. Yeah,
and it's that balancing act between the human touch actually, making quality content versus making a high volume of content.
yeah, I agree. I think one of the videos one of the platforms allows you to make 8-second videos, which is okay, but you can't really tell a story in 8 seconds. But the 8-second one had a better it had less of those weird echoes and better or less weird, annoying things in it, so it was a better AI engine, but you could only build 8 seconds, and then if you try to stitch 8 seconds plus 8 seconds plus 8 seconds, it couldn't do a very good storytelling job. The other one did a better job telling a story, but it definitely had the typical AI generation problems in it that just, like, you couldn't use either one, basically.
Yeah. It was, you kinda need something in the middle that has none of the flaws that they both either one has. You need some kinda happy medium, but it's reassuring to know that AI isn't totally there yet. Maybe I'll have a little bit of job security.
No, I think AI is gonna be just a tool. It's not gonna be a job replacer. The people who can use AI really well are gonna be the ones that have jobs. The people who try to run from it and hide it. That's the logic I think it's out there. Yeah, that was interesting, I think, in our shared world is the how far can you take AI into social media? And it might be okay for a little bit of a B-roll clip here or there, but it's not taking over anybody's job by any means. It's not there yet. If it will get there, maybe, but you're always going to need a human to prompt engineer, to be creative, and to think of original concepts and ideas that, you don't just want to retweet the same thing that somebody else is doing or whatever. What else? Anything else new?
I think that's about all that was new. Hasn't been that exciting of the past 2 weeks, wrapping up a month and starting a new one. Not
Yeah,
much room for experimentation.
right. Well, let's get into today's main topic. We've last two podcasts we've kind of gone down the AI rabbit hole and talking about AI agents, and I think it's a good time to kind of pump the brakes and talk about something new. We'll come back to that maybe on the next one, but since you're here and you're 4 months, 5 months into your first digital marketing job here at the agency, tell me how you thought the job that you were trying to maybe imagine in your mind when you were going to college and taking classes and professors were talking to you about marketing and advertising in general. How close is it to reality or how far apart is it? And yeah, are colleges where they need to be? I know when I started, I went to KU and, I fell into digital marketing. It kind of found me. I didn't find it really because it wasn't even a thing on the college campus back then. It was still doing newspaper and TV and radio was the only thing they could ever talk about.
Ye olden
20 the
times.
old times, me, my old ass. How about now? What's maybe start with just telling everybody where you went, a little bit about you, and yeah, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, so I graduated back in May 2025 from UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City. Well,
Go Ruse?
go Roos,
Go
yeah.
Ruse. All right.
I graduated with a bachelor's in media studies with a minor in business and then another minor in art and design. Ooh, ruined that take.
That's what you
Uh,
get for playing with things on the table.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a busy table. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, the first thing that really stands out to me is that you were talking about the job I was picturing in my head, but the issue is that the classroom is a lot of this is what it looks like in theory. That this is the I don't even want to say technical knowledge, but SEO, for example, it was just, "This is the checklist of SEO." It was never really put into practice of, "This is what it looks like in a job context,"
Mm,
or it's my experience so far in these 4 months has been, this is what the theory actually looks like in practice. I've I don't wanna call my job practice, but I've gotten a lot more practice using SEO tools and seeing how things actually how the theory translates to functionality. You can't just cram SEO keywords into everything and have it work out. It's a balancing act between SEO and making things actually readable, and plus we use a lot of the Google algorithm, so it's what is Google actually like versus what the textbook from 10 years ago tells you that Google likes.
yeah, that's interesting. What was the checklist? Was it title tags or what was the checklist?
It was a lot of they really, really pushed keyword research, which I feel is the easiest part of my job. I feel like I don't really have to do that much research.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And they really wanted us to they focused on the actual writing aspect of it, where it's get those keywords in there as much as possible. There should be a hyperlink every 2 sentences, where it's like, yes, in theory that works, but in a person actually going in and reading it, it makes it unbearable to read, and therefore you're not gonna get any engagement if they're not reading all the way through.
If you if you look at Wikipedia, like every paragraph has and there's a link on there's like 5 links in every paragraph on Wikipedia to a different Wikipedia page, and you can always cite sources at the I think that's like the theory
Mm,
that they teach
yeah.
is like in a perfect SEO world, every website is Wikipedia, and you're like, yeah, there's a art and a science to this. It's not just all science.
Mhm.
It's not just a checklist. And when I talk to people and I put my SEO hat on, I'm like, I'm just the SEO guy here in the room talking right now. I know there's like a art person and like a UX person and like a common sense that needs to go into this algorithm. It can't just be Wikipedia. Not every website needs to be Wikipedia. That's interesting though that they kind of gave you that perspective. I didn't know that that's what they're doing, and at least it's something. I think they're trying to give you something. It may be antiquated, maybe 10 years old, but they're giving you theory, something to think about, which is probably about the best you can expect, I think, at this point. Did you have like adjunct professors come in who are like doing it for real, or they just is it kind of like
Not so much on the digital marketing side of things. In my media production type things, we had a lot of adjunct professors. Like, I had a professor, his name was Tony Laddish. He ran like a digital media production company. I think it was called Mile Deep Productions. I really appreciated him having him as a professor because he had real world like industry knowledge versus just the people that have been professors their whole lives.
yeah,
I thought that that was a lot more valuable than I think there's a place for both. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
especially the earlier years of college when you're starting out. You kind of need a little bit more of that background based knowledge. But as I was getting older, and especially as a senior, I was like, I am really trying to get prepared to enter the job market, and I don't think the school was equipped to help with that part. They were kinda just like, "Well, here, take your finals, get out of here," which I would have appreciated a little bit more of the practical, "Here, find a job, this is what the workplace looks like," and that whole sorta thing.
right. Yeah, I think that's we were just talking. I was talking to somebody the other day about they had I would consider it a world class internship. They got to go to New York. This through VML and work on a big account like New Balance, and they were there. They were in the room. They kind of got the theory part even through that exercise completed. But then their internship was over and they went back to school and there was never any closed loop on them. They didn't get to actually see, did my ideas come to fruition? Did those concepts get implemented? What were the results? Did things go up? Did things go down? Did did conversions or traffic or whatever social engagement, whatever the ideas and the theories are, that's what you don't get in school. And I don't think maybe you ever will because you're like you're in a class for a semester and you kind of get taught something. Only in the real world do you have to stand there and face the music 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road and go, "Hey, this is what we did. This is how it's working." And hopefully, I've been doing this long enough. I kind of know what the outputs are, but somebody new like you're kind of just now been here long enough to see, okay, I have done SEO report. You do a lot of our SEO reporting for us, and you write a lot of the notes and go through the analytics, which is a great way to learn how those concepts and ideas get implemented. So I don't think you're going to get that in college. You have to go work for a company or an agency to see that come through and go, oh, yeah, I wrote that article 3 months ago and look, it's gotten this much traction on social media and this many backlinks and this much landing page visits or whatever.
To piggyback off that, I think a lot of it is something that I'm trying to learn now as I wrap up my 4.5, 5 months is how to take that information and transition it into the next project, into the next blog post for the next month. We tried this thing and maybe it worked out, maybe it didn't. But how do you take that and transfer that into making the next one better? That's where I'm at in learning things instead of here's this, I hope it's good versus this was good, this didn't work. How do I take what didn't work and try something else?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
I'm going to go back to your keyword research on what you mentioned earlier. Keyword research has always been, and I've heard people say it, hey, Kevin, can you do keyword research for me? And the answer is, yeah, I can do keyword research. But I think one of the things maybe you've learned and you alluded to was it may not be the most important thing. There's tools. I can go pull search volume through Google Keyword Planner. I can use SCM Rush. I can use tools to tell me what people are searching for, and I can get a volume metric. This keyword gets searched 2,000 times a month. This longer tail version gets searched 150 times a month. And this super long tail version that's 4 or 5 things, let's start putting near me on the end of it or something. It only gets searched 10 times a month. There's only so many people looking for pest control companies in Overland Park, right? So, what does that keyword research really tell you? People look for pest control companies. People look for pest control companies, let's say Kansas City. Those are going to be higher. Common sense dictates that's the 2 word phrase is going to get searched more or going to be included in the 3 or 4 word phrase. So keyword research is one of these things where I'm like, you kind of have to, you can use the tools, but I feel like common sense wins the day and people are overly invested in keyword research and what does the keyword research tell me? Like, is there some secret tea leaves that I'm not reading through this keyword? And sometimes there are derivatives or alternatives or things that you're like, oh, I never thought of that. That's kind of cool. There's a correlation here that I didn't see. And that's what keyword research is good for. But I don't know that it makes a lot of changes to the common sense and the core principles. And I always tell business owners, you are who you are, and the company that you built is the company that you built, and you want to be this company, then be this company. I don't know. I don't want to change what I'm telling people about your brand or your business on the website because SEM Rush says, well, this keyword gets more searches than this keyword. That that's gonna, if you kind of fast forward into, let's use pest control for example. Since I already said that one. If it's well, bug control or termite control or pest control, which one's better? Like, well, you know, you can build a page for, you can have an umbrella page that says pest, and then you can have a sub page 2 that talks about termites. You're not walking away from anything. You're just organizing your website in a way that makes sense to people. And some people might have ants and spiders, and some people might just call them bugs. We don't know what they're going to call them. But also, you shouldn't write your content one way. You should incorporate all that into your website copy anyway, which then goes back to the original thing. Why are we doing all this keyword research when you're going to end up saying, let's use all the keywords. Let's just figure out the sitemap and the structure that they they all work towards. This can be your H1 or your H2 or your H3 tag. I don't know. Is it common sense or is it really helpful? Because again, this is the old versus new. I've been doing this for too long. It just clicks for me, but is it?
People get too hung up on, oh, these keywords, these are popular. We should plug this in because this is what's working. I think people kind of underestimate, especially in the content development area, is kind of making yourself well rounded. We have a bridal client, for example, and if every single article they had was just about wedding dresses, you're really kind of narrowing your scope on that one. But say, oh, let's put out an article about wedding invitations or venues or something. Like, you're opening up things, you're making yourself more well rounded. And in not in a roundabout way, in reality, you're going to bring in more traffic because you're making yourself more jack of all trades a little bit on that. And yes, you do still have your specialty at the end of the day. You have your things that are going to work and you have your high value quote unquote keywords that you're like, this is the traffic that we find the most valuable. But I think underestimating or dismissing things that aren't super direct is stupid. I think you got to keep an open mind. You got to be willing to branch out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I could use rank views as an example. We have a couple of blog posts on our website that are helpful, informational how-tos. One of them is about Google Maps listings, how to delete or consolidate duplicate listings or whatever. And it gets a ton of traffic. It almost is our number one thing that people are always having problems with Google. And they come to our website, they read how to fix it. Does that hurt our core pages? Does that hurt who we are? Because now Google thinks that I'm a helpful blogger trying to help people fix their digital marketing problems. Or when somebody types in digital marketing agency near me or whatever, do we not come up because Google's thinking, oh, they're too jack of all trades, they're too obtuse, they're not focused enough. So that's where the SEO experts and again theory in college and reality in the out here in the real world works is you have to kind of do a little bit of everything but not deviate so far from the core equation that you are no longer a company of this is what I do, this is who I am, this is my main navigation, these are keeping the main thing always has to be number one. Sometimes I've seen sites get too many articles, too crazy, and then they kind of lose some of their rankings that they care about the most. Because when we talk about keyword research, you're serving two masters sometimes, especially when you're a bigger organization. Let's say you have a CEO or a CMO and they're asking the director or the marketing manager, "Hey, how much traffic are we getting?" "Oh, you want traffic? Oh, I can make traffic happen. I can go article heavy, bring in the knowledge and the traffic from the who, what, where, when, why, how audience, because that's relatively easy to go capture." And then the same CMO or the same, CEO goes, "How much how much of that is converting? How much of that is turning into to sales? I don't want just traffic. I want traffic that converts. I want to fill up the CRM with leads and opportunities." And you're like, "Oh, but yesterday you wanted traffic, today you wanted sales." So
Clients be
sometimes
client.
it's not client be client. It's some of our clients, some of the people that work at bigger organizations, they know the game. They know they have to serve kind of quote unquote two masters when it comes to their website. It's the C suite wants to see both more traffic and more sales. But you start peeling back the layers and you start going into the data and you start looking at the analytics and the spreadsheets and you go like 90% of your conversions come from like 1% of your keyword traffic. It's the ones that matter. It's the keyword research that we already kind of knew. It's the common sense. Guess what? You're a pest control company. When time somebody types in pest control company near me, it tends to convert. When they Google top 10 ways to keep your, termites off your deck or something, hey, it gets a lot more traffic because people have termites on their deck. Not everybody's looking for a pest control company as much as they're looking for solutions and DIYs and what chemicals or what paint or whatever. It's just kind of two different games. That's why I think keyword research. Not to go. This wasn't intended to be a podcast about keyword research by any means. That was an interesting tidbit you brought up because I do have thoughts on keywords are not always worth chasing from a volume standpoint. Your long tail, be who you are keyword is going to be the best converting keyword. If you rank for that, be happy. Don't you can go chase other things, but don't go chase it to the point where you start hurting yourself on the main thing.
Yeah, well, and it kind of goes back to what you said about authenticity, and it's like present yourself as what you are, especially as AI content and everything becomes taking over a share of the space. I think people like real consumers, real people that are looking for a service, that are looking for a product are going to start looking for that authenticity. They're going to be looking for real businesses, not some random chatbot somewhere that's not going to get anything done for them.
Turn the topic back to you and you being somewhat new and me being kind of the old Moses character in the room. What's one piece of advice that you might give somebody starting out in digital marketing and maybe more poetically, how do you see the future of digital marketing as somebody who's just entering the game, what you've learned so far? What do you think the next iteration or 5 years looks like for digital marketing agencies?
Ooh, that's a good one. We've been talking about it on and off the whole episode, but AI is a big concern for a lot of people in schools right now. It's changing a lot about school, about how people learn. And I think that it's made a lot of people, especially in this industry, nervous about job security, and the singularity is the best way I can think to describe it, to getting to the point where I think I'm curious about how digital marketing is going to have to change, because a lot of things are changing. Our technology is changing, the content creation process is changing, but I'm curious to see how that's going to be reflected, because it's not going to be an overnight change. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are, oh, let's just ignore this and keep doing what we're doing. And then other people that are too quick to change, and, oh, let's go in on everything right away. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know
No,
how to
you're
like
right.
that
You're
up.
right. I think that's one of the things that if you kind of think of agencies as boats in the ocean, there's big boats and there's small boats. And the whole analogy of, well, it takes a cruise ship an hour to turn around. They're just so big, they can't adjust as quickly. They're going to continue to do things and beat the drum almost as if AI hasn't existed because they're behemoths. They're like, yeah, we'll get to AI, but it ain't gonna be tomorrow. We're gonna have to turn that ship much slower. We have too much revenue. We have too many big clients. We have millions of dollars pouring in, doing things the way we've been doing things for 10 years or 20 years, whatever. Why would we pick up stakes and try to move too far too fast? Let's continue to make make hay. Then you have your smallers, your startups, your little boats who are like, you want to go left, you want to go right, up, down, I don't care. Let's turn the boat around and let's see where we can go find new opportunities. So if you're a business and you're working with a big agency, you're gonna have to push them to move on some things. That's how this is a tangent, but one of the things that came out was llms.txt. It's a file. You can upload it on your server, right? And it's like the new robots txt for Google Robot, but for LLMs. So if you look at your server logs, you'll see ChatGPT and Claude are pinging this file to see if it exists on your website. The small companies or the small agencies are like, yeah, let's do it. It takes 10 minutes. Let me go do it. And then you have some of the biggest companies in the world who haven't done it yet because they've outsourced it or they're they're waiting for somebody else to come up with the idea or do the thing that hasn't been done yet. And it's like it was kind of funny. I think even some of the bigger it was funny. Like I think SEM Rush, I think they have one now, but they had articles on their website about the LLMS.txt file before they had an LLMS.txt. I think I'm not sure. I don't want to name too many names, but I think there was some even Neil Patel. I think he was talking about it and putting articles out about it before he actually put one on his own website. It's like they're so they're so ingrained in doing the process that they've always done, put out content, do things the way we've always done it, and no one ever stopped and goes, "Oh, you know what? We should probably do that for ourselves or for our clients." It's just kind of funny. It cracked me up.
Cart before the horse a little bit.
Yeah, I think that happens, and it's just kind of funny. But the small boats are quick. I just did mine in 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't even really spend too much time with it. I just like, here you go, done. Check the box, move forward. But the bigger companies, the bigger agencies are not as quick to move because it has to go through a committee and 5 people have to sign off on it, and it's a different world, and that's that whole AI thing right now. I see some small. I think it's a crack for smaller companies to win faster than the big companies because you said you can't put all your eggs into the new basket. You got to kind of straddle the fence, but it is fun to be a little bit smaller and hit the gas on things when I want to.
Yeah. Well, and kind of to tie it back with what you said about advice for people in school, I think it's people when you're in college, when you're about to graduate, especially in uncertain economic times, people love to harp on you about, or maybe this is just me and maybe I just stressed myself out a lot, but there's a lot of that anxiety where I really don't know what this is actually going to translate to once I get into a real job and see what this information looks like out there in the quote unquote real world. I would my advice for people would just be to focus on what you're doing, find a good find a good place to work and try it out. In the grand scheme of things, you can jump around if it's not right, but
Why do you? Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. You got to get your foot in the door and do the job to understand the job, and that job leads to another job. And
I
I hope
just
I hope you work here for a very long time. You do great work, but I know that not everybody does. And there's people your age that I know graduated a year last May or whatever, and they're still looking for that first job. And I'm either A, you never got a offer, or you're just too picky. Do you think kids your age are waiting for that perfect job and not just saying yes to the first opportunity?
I think that there's a lot of pressure to have everything figured out in terms of career as soon as you graduate. Where you've got that perfect job lined up, you're I think that the quote unquote entry level job mentality is kind of disappearing a little bit for a lot of people, but also because a lot of entry level jobs are disappearing. Not I don't know about our industry, but with automation and people staying in the workforce longer, a lot of those entry level jobs just don't exist.
Yeah. I think the easiest thing for AI to replace is entry level jobs. I was pulling into the parking lot again, old man here. I listened to old man radio. Pulling in the parking lot this morning, stat came across that Indeed, one of the biggest job posting websites on the planet, I guess, said for the first time since COVID, early 2021, the number of jobs right now available on Indeed is 2021 level, pre-COVID. When back when nobody was hiring during COVID, that's where we're at as of right now. I don't know if it's just a lot of economic uncertainty and a lot going on in the world, but it is harder to find a job. And then heard another stat because I'm full of old man information. I'm like your dad here, but the average age for a first time home buyer, I think, is now. I want to. I was gonna say over 40, but I don't know if that's it was 37 or something pretty high, right? And they said 10 years ago, I think the average age was 29. It was the available jobs for entry are going away, and and also the available the affordable housing market is not affordable anymore, And so people are having to wait longer to buy their first house, and everything just kind of seems to be delayed. People are trying to find that perfect job right out of the gate. And I go, in my mind, I'm like, there is no, everything is stacked up against you. If you want to own a home and have a job, go get a job. The best thing you can do is have a resume that looks like you can start do the thing you do, get promoted a few times. Don't jump around every 6 months either. That's a lot of red flags I see on resumes that come across my desk. I'm like, why can't you stick and stay anywhere for more than a couple months, or give it something a year? But it seems like is that also kind of the mentality is
Yeah.
jump, jump, jump?
Yeah, I would say so. When I took the job here, I approached it with the mentality of, well, if I don't like it, I can always go somewhere else. Even though I've loved it and I don't have any intention to leave anytime soon unless you're giving me the boot.
No, I'm
But
not.
I think a lot of people are God, I sound like a generation trader. I sound like a boomer, but I think a lot of people are expecting the perfect everything immediately. I think a lot of people, it's that instant gratification. I don't think people are as patient. And
I'm
when
not.
they're not getting what they want, they're like, "Well, I'll just go find it somewhere else." And then they get out into the job market and they're like, "Well, it's a little more competitive than I thought." And those little things like the resume where it shows you jump ship every 6 months, that could be the deciding factor between you getting that perfect dream job versus, the next guy standing behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting for sure. I think it's hard to build a resume, but I think it's important to say yes more than you say no, and take on challenges and opportunities. And if something doesn't, yeah, by all means, if this isn't working out, I hope you do go find something else, and I'm sure you can. But this is my job is to try to keep you as happy as possible. I straddle that fence hard. I'm like an 81er. I'm like, I'm not Gen X, but I'm like the oldest millennial, and I definitely have those millennial tendencies. I'm like not I kind of am instant gratification myself. I get it, and as an older millennial, I'm like, yeah, I want stuff and I want it now, and I want Amazon to have my package on my door when I get home. But I also kind of felt like I got my first job in the wake of 9/11, and if you think nobody was hiring during COVID, try 9/11. That was one of those tough times as well, and I had to say yes to a low paying, a lot less than I thought I was gonna be making. I asked you right off the like, what was your kind of dream scenario, or what were you thinking in college? What I was thinking in college and what happened in reality were like, "Oh, shit. Okay, well, I guess this is the world I live in. This is what I'm gonna do now." I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making no money, but I learned a lot, and I got better, and I got skills that then eventually translated into bigger and better things. And I think that's just the advice that I would give. I have high school kids now, so I think that's the advice I will give my kids is say yes. If you think it's going to make you a better person, a better, more skilled in the industry and the career path that you want to take, I would rather you say yes, go to work Monday through Friday, get out of bed, do the thing, even if you kind of hate it, it'll make you better. Because if your resume is because you're building a resume, and if it has gaps and it looks like you're not willing to say yes and do the things that business owners want, you're gonna have trouble landing that perfect job. It's always gonna be 6 months away or a year away. And I always like to hear stories from other people who kind of are successful today, kind of give their kind of case study of an example. And there's so many of them out there. They're just like, man, you know, I was mopping the floor. I was, you know, doing the dishes or whatever, and I was doing the fries at McDonald's or whatever. Those jobs got me to a point where I am today, and I think that's the advice that people need to hear. Maybe I don't know. I could be wrong. It's a different time. I'm older.
Kind of tying it back to you asked what like my expectations were getting out of school. I think we're a little bit more nihilistic. these days. I think people have very low expectations, so I was pleased as punch with the opportunity that I had, but
I
I
like
think
the word nihilistic. I'm still on that one.
but I think a lot of us are a bit more not bitter, but low
Yeah.
expectations
Yeah.
because things have been so uncertain for quite a while. I had freshly gotten my driver's license during COVID, so formative years have been a little turbulent.
Yeah. Yeah. How old were you, like, during the housing market crash, like the '08 stuff?
I was born in '03.
You're so young. Yeah. There's so much of you shouldn't compare yourself to other generations, but there's that Instagram, TikTok meme of, "Here I go. Here's my 7th once in a lifetime
Yeah.
crisis that I'm living through this," and it seems to be ramping up more and more. The housing market, the 9/11 thing was kind of like, "Okay, I think I'm done now. I think the rest of my life can be easy from here," and then it's like, "Nope, here's the next one." You're like, "Here's the interest rate. Here's the inflation. Here's this," and you're just like, "Man."
And then they throw a global pandemic
I f
on there,
Yeah,
and
and then I feel like these boomers, they grew up in the '70s and '80s. Did you how hard was it, really?
they had serial killers popping up all the time. That's something to
There
keep
was
your eye
kids on
on.
milk cartons back then, but wasn't that bad. No, I don't
Just
know.
they're licking that lead paint off the wall.
It's different types of problems, I guess, yeah, but I'm like, "Man, you could just put your money in an index fund and watch it go up back then."
Yep.
I don't know what you're doing now.
I think the purchasing power is crazy because I saw this thing the other day that was working minimum wage at McDonald's can't even buy you a Big Mac combo meal. 1 hour of work at
Mhm.
McDonald's can't buy you a
Right.
McDonald's meal.
Yeah.
And then somebody did the purchasing power of the McDonald's minimum wage in 1982, and you could buy 12 Big Macs with 1 hour of pay. It's
Oh,
like,
wow. I
god
didn't know
damn.
that. Yeah. Yeah. My first job, my first 14, 15-year-old was Hardee's. I worked fast food there, and it was minimum wage, and I feel like the combo meals back then were 4, 5,
Yeah.
$6. You wanna go large size, whatever. It wasn't crazy, and even when I was in high school, I remember I lived back in the era where you could just go out for lunch in high school, so you could just, like, get in your yeah,
Jealous.
no, you could just get in your car and go to McDonald's or wherever you wanted to go for lunch, and as long as you're back within an hour, you're good. So, more freedoms for sure back then, but I could go to Mc it was like $4. It was like a $5 I think a $5 bill would cover pretty much a meal back then, and but minimum wage back then was also, like, I think, like 7 something. So, like, an hour would cover it, but it wouldn't cover, like, 12, you know? It'd cover,
Yeah.
like, 1 and a half or something.
Yeah, but here we are. Federal minimum wage is still
Is it?
7.25,
Well,
so
yeah. I don't I don't know how that is
that's
even
why I never waited
possible.
tables on the Kansas side because they only pay their servers like 3.20. In Missouri, you have to pay like
Oh,
6
really?
something,
Oh, I didn't know that.
which I lived on the Missouri side, so I was like, I'll just work over here too.
Yeah. Where were you working?
I worked at the Big Biscuit.
Ah,
I
that's right.
worked
You told me that.
the brunch shift. The
That's
brunch
awesome.
had that lovely Sundays after church crowd.
I've
You
only
guys know
been
what I'm
to
talking about.
I've only been to the Big Biscuit once.
It's alright.
It was alright.
You know what? It paid the bills. I've paid off my freshman year of college from it, so it it wasn't my perfect dream job, but you know what? I said yes, and I
Yeah,
took a job,
that's what you gotta
and
do.
that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, it's awesome. To the table, that sounded weird, it's like bong. Anyway, we can wrap this up. Any parting thoughts from you, Maggie? Any words of wisdom you wanna throw out before we, call it?
If you're about to graduate and you're looking for a job, try not to get overwhelmed. I understand that it's easier said than done, but just try new things, say yes, stay in touch with your upperclassmen buddies that are out there and that are working and doing the thing. I
Networking is big.
Yeah, I think knowing people is a
Knowing
big
yeah,
part of it.
yeah, 100 yeah. The whole "it's not what you know, it's who you know" is very prevalent still. Yeah.
But yeah,
Alright. Well,
thanks for having me on.
thanks for coming. I'm sure we'll do more. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a 3 mic conversation here in the future with you, me, and Lauren. So thanks anybody who's still listening to this 50 minutes in. Talk to you guys later. All right. Bye, everybody.